In increasingly conservative Florida, its most famous barrier island is taking on climate change.
Miami Beach is very unique in the sense that we are planning to address our climate change challenges.
Chief Resilience Officer Amy Knowles says the city is a living laboratory for climate change.
We have made a decision to incrementally adapt to sea level rise, and it is just a really important priority for us.
Miami is home to some of the nation's most expensive real estate. Sea levels here are projected to rise 6 to 10 inches by the end of the decade. So Miami is building seawalls and planning to raise half its streets 2 feet.
This is the low old sidewalk. As you can see, you walk up this ramp to the newer elevation. And a lot of the businesses in here have much higher ceilings to allow for that building to adapt to sea level rise over time, that they can actually elevate their interior floor as it's needed.
Actions inspired by a city across the Atlantic Ocean some 4,800 miles away.
When I think of Miami Beach, I think of sun and warmth. And here we are in Copenhagen on a cold and rainy day. And yet the two cities have something in common?
A lot, actually. One of the things that you would find both here and in Miami Beach is the challenge of the rising sea level and the extreme rains that are getting more and more extreme in the future climate. So there are a lot to learn from each other.
Engineer Christian Nielsen is a strategic advisor to Miami Beach and one of the designers of Copenhagen's climate resilient initiatives. This design-centric city of 1.4 million people is growing in population while adapting to climate risks, as Nielsen shows us in St. Anne's Square.
10 years ago, what did this look like?
This area is the former lineup for the ferries going out of Copenhagen. You would have 1 lane of parking, 2 lanes of driving traffic, so more or less asphalt from facade to facade.
Now it's what Nielsen calls a cloudburst street.
We changed the profile of the street to a V shape, and when the flood overloads the separate storm sewer system, it goes to the street and flows into the green median, and from there it's diverted directly into the harbor.
What made you change it to a park?
The really burning platform was the major floods that we had in 2011 and 2012, where this area was completely flooded. So a lot of the shops were drowned, all the inventory was, destroyed.
Such innovations are why Copenhagen is a mecca for American cities trying to go green. Monica Magnuson of Meet Copenhagen City is their host.
Is there one thing that the Americans want to see?
How urban life can be compatible with both sustainable life but also a good quality of life.
And here, that starts with biking.
The daily commute to work, school or education for Copenhageners, 42% of them, those trips are done by bicycle. We have an aim for 50% actually to reach 2025.
Welcome to the Workday Peloton. Even on a cold, miserable, rainy day like this, commuters in Copenhagen choose the bike. It's the easiest, fastest, most environmentally friendly way to get around.
Part of Copenhagen's strategy to be carbon neutral in 2025. San Jose, California is gearing up to do the same by 2030, which it can't achieve without tackling the way Americans commute.
One of the key things we have to do as a city is we need to reduce the vehicle emissions.
A transformation inspired by Copenhagen, says Director of Environmental Services Carrie Romanow.
Those cities like Copenhagen that do a lot of biking tend to have a really good energy about them, and you meet different people along your way. So in addition to reducing carbon, you're also just creating a better community.
But even in Copenhagen, where there are 5 bikes for every car, carbon emissions from vehicles are still rising. Black Iron Horse cargo bikes offer an alternative.
Mike?
Yes, I'm Mike.
Hi, I'm Ann. It's
nice to meet you. Welcome.
Do you have the SUV of bicycles?
Yeah.
Wow. And this would sit 6 kids?
6 kids. Or you can turn it around. So actually, this is a really good alternative to a car. Let's say the mom is driving.
Yeah.
Then there could be a dad in here and 2 kids. So this is like going on a family trip.
Bikes made sustainably of recycled materials and assembled in Copenhagen. The majority are now electric.
I think people like the storytelling. I think the thing is that when you ride with your kids, you can tell them, see, we're doing something with the climate crisis.
It's part of the culture here.
Yeah.
Still, Copenhagen is far short of its goal to be carbon neutral in 2025, and it needs a big win.
Right now, we're 65% there for the target to become carbon neutral, so we still have some areas to go.
That's 35% in a little more than 2 years. That's a long way to go.
It is, yeah. But we have mapped out a lot of things that need to happen. So there is many projects in the pipeline, and then there's some new projects that need to become part of the pipeline, like, for instance, carbon capture.
At Copenhagen.
Exactly.
Famous for its ski run and panoramic views in vertically challenged Copenhagen, underneath Copenhagen is a waste-to-energy plant, providing heat and electricity to the city and sending 500,000 tons of carbon dioxide into the air each year.
For the last 9 months, you've run a carbon capture pilot program here.
Yes.
What have you learned?
The first thing that we have learned is that it is possible to capture the carbon from our flue gas. That's the first step. It is very interesting because it boils down to what amount of energy should you actually use to capture the carbon in the flue gas. The less energy that you can use, the cheaper the process actually becomes.
But carbon capture is expensive. Who's going to pay for it?
We will need some funding, either from the Danish state or from the EU.
How much money would you have to spend to build a carbon capture plant?
We would have to spend about 150 million euros probably, or even more, to build the plant.
That's $163 million for one plant, with technology the UN says is necessary to keep the Earth from warming more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit.
Can Copenhagen reach its goal of carbon neutrality if you don't have carbon capture at this plant?
I think it will be extremely difficult.
That's the present challenge. Here in Copenhagen Harbor, the focus is on the future and the strait that connects the North and Baltic Seas.
We're building this island to protect Copenhagen from the flooding we foresee in the future. We have had big storms and floods in Copenhagen, but with the sea level rise coming up due to climate change, we need to protect Copenhagen even further.
Called Lynetteholmen, the man-made island will require 80 million tons of soil and 50 years to build. Along with sea level protection, developer Anne Skovbo says the island will also provide homes for 35,000 people. But there is opposition from climate activists.
Lynetteholmen is a devastation to the environment. There's going to be a massive amounts of trucks moving in soil. I'm 28 years old. This project is going to be done in 50 years. You know, I'm not even gonna be here in that time, right? It's gonna be a mess.
Is this a real estate development project masquerading as climate resilience?
It is a real estate project masquerading as a climate adaptation project. I'm sure of it. It's a prestige project that is not needed in order to adapt Copenhagen.
Why build an island instead of a seawall?
Because the island can give more back to the city. A dike or a seawall is a simple construction which can do only one thing, and that's being a seawall.
Even here, climate resiliency projects are controversial. But Nielsen, the engineer, says there is a way to sell them no matter where you live.
Put a dollar value on the co-benefits, because you can do that. You know, the health effects, the livability effects, the safety that you create in the city. That is possible to put a dollar amount on. What we've learned is that if you have a really strong business case, also both short-term and long-term business case, then it will survive the political cycles.
So you think if you can make the business case for climate resiliency, you can sell it politically?
Yeah, I'm sure we can. And that's what we see, not just here, but also in the US.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.